Hey, good evening. Tonight I want to talk about the old school format for Magic the Gathering. We play the old school format in bars. Most of the big cities have its own old school Magic club with its usual tavern to play each month. Those monthly tournaments attract between 10 to 20 player, which is like the modern tournament that you find in a local store. During the year, the different club host a bigger tournament, like the Tundra Wolf Challenge in Montreal, the Chaos Con in Ottawa, or the Winter Blast in Toronto. Those bigger tournaments attract around, let's say, 40 to 50 player. The old school format, of course, only accept card from the set release in 1993 and 1994, which mean the Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, Revise, Arabian Night, Antiquities, Legend, The Dark, Fallen Empire, and also the reprint from those sets that were made in subsequent edition, like a 4th edition, a Chronicle, the time shifted card in Time Spiral. So of course we have a restricted card in our format. Obviously the Power 9, Chaos Orb, Balance, Channel, Demonic Tutor, Mind Twist, and a couple of other that you can find on any old school website. You can find the restricted list. But here in Canada, we play a variant of old school called the Old School Boreal, which allow 4 Strip Mine, 4 Mishra Workshop, and 4 Maze of It. I know the American on the East Coast prefer to play with a restrict Strip Mine, so they can only have 1 per deck. But that's not what we do here in Canada. We like it more difficult. Having an environment with 4 Strip Mine mean it has a big impact on our meta. Land destruction strategy are always present and a big factor on how you will build your deck. So this is what I want to talk about tonight. I want to talk to you about the Monoblack deck in the old school format and how to play it in a 4 Strip Mine format. But first, let's do a little history because it's a thing I like to do. Um, I believe the Mono Black deck, as we are familiar with in the old school format, has its origin in Rudy Edward deck of the winter 94-95 that you can see here on the screen. Rudy Edwards started Magic in 1993 and he became known for his top 8 in various tournaments at the day, but especially for his article that he wrote for the Dojo website, which is like was like one of the first website to have strategy and deck list that appear in the internet back in the days. We first noticed that there's a big control element in that deck. You see first that there's 4 Strip Mine here, 4 Sinkhole, so that's mean 8 cards that do land destruction. And of course, 4 Into Turak. You pay 2 black and you choose 2 cards at random from your opening hand. These cards, like the Into Turak, Sinkhole, and Strip Mine, I believe are like the core of those mono black deck in old school. Allowing you to remove 2 cards at random from your opening hand is very strong. Sometimes we manage to completely stop him by removing his land or his source of mana. Sometimes we catch his removal, so our fast creature can continue to attack without any trouble. Casting an Imp to Turak at the start of the game is very painful, and since we have 4 of them, like it's not uncommon to cast multiple, like 1 or 2 during a game. This is really strong. The Mind Twist, which is restrict, you should get 1 if you don't have 1 for your mono black deck. It's really good. It's like your 5th Imp to Turak. If you cast it with a Dark Ritual in your opening hand, it can be really good and wreck your opponent end. There are, of course, the 4 Hypnotic Spectre, 2/2 flying, which means it hits the opponent really easily. It has evasive. And then you remove a card at random from his hand. It's very strong. Your opponent must destroy it or block it, otherwise, like the game will quickly come to your advantage. The classic move, of course, is to cast Hypnotic Spectre with a Dark Ritual on turn 1. But often your opponent will have a response like a Lightning Bolt or Swords to Plowshare, so you find yourself losing 2 cards for a 1. But even knowing that, I still continue to do it every turn, because if it doesn't have an answer, It's really hard to come back from a Hypnotic Spectre that attack on like the second turn, third turn, and then you remove card from his hand. It's one of the strongest start you can have with that deck. And also, of course, with all that discard, we have like the rack an artifact from Antiquities, which deal damage if your opponent has less than 3 cards in his hand. So if your opponent has like no card in hand, you will lose 3 every turn, and that goes down quickly, especially if you have 2 rack on the battlefield. It's also work as kind of like a control artifact because if he's low on life, he will hesitate to play his card because you want to have more than 3 cards in his hand. So it's kind of like put a stop on him to cast his card. So sometimes like you can really, it's almost like a pseudo time walk. And also you will notice that Rudy Edward used 3 Disrupting Scepter. The Disrupting Scepter is like, it's a magic staff that costs 3 colorless, and then you pay 3 to force your opponent to discard a card from his choice, which is a little different than Imtuturak and the Spectre. But it's very strong. It doesn't seem like much, but it's very strong. Brian Wiseman, the inventor of the deck, was famous for playing the Disrupting Scepter in the winter of '95. It's kind of like what got that card really respected. Rudy Edward here does the same thing. I found that if you don't have to play for the rack main deck because like sometimes it doesn't do anything if your opponent has a lot of card drawing. So now these days I'm more like 1 or 2 copies on my main deck, and even like it happens sometimes that I put them back in my sideboard. The Disrupting Scepter is also a good card, but like I found myself sometimes putting them in my sideboard when I play against an aggro deck. Finally, of course, there are the creature. Rudy played the famous Juzam Jin. It's a 5/5 for 4. You lose 1 life each upkeep. Personally, I prefer to play this deck without any Juzam because I prefer to have a lower mana curve. I think it works better. And so that's why you will play the, like here we have it, the Order of the Eban, and you can also play 4 or 3 Black Knight. So we call them like the Black Knight of the old school format. The Order of the Eban is for 2 black, a 2/1. Protection from white, and you can pay 1 black to give him first strike and 2 black to give him +1/+0. And the Black Knight is 2/2 first strike, protection from white also, but it doesn't pump. But what those having those cards on the battlefield is really good because against like most control player will play Swords to Plowshare, so that card will not be affected by it, and also they can block any like 7 Lion and other white type of white card. It can pass through a Serra Angel, so like it's really good against a control deck and like white aggro deck, the knights. What I like about me, I prefer the Order of the Eban more than the Black Knight, because the Order of the Eban, once you have like 3 black mana, you can transform it into a 3/1 first strike, and then even if you add another swamp, you can transform it into like if you can push it to be a 4/1 first strike, it's really hard to block. It will not trade. It will, and then your opponent will have to choose: does he take damage or he sacrifices his creature to it? It's a really good card, especially in late game. The Black Knight is better at the start of the game because against like an aggro deck, it can block with its first strike if they only have like a toughness of 2. And like against Mishra Factory, it's really good, and there's a lot of Mishra Factories in that format, so Black Knight sometimes is a better choice. We see that Rudy Edward had a 4 terror main deck against creature, but if you play in a meta with a lot of black deck or control deck or artifact deck, you will find the evening really long. So I prefer playing my 4 terror in my sideboard. and I bring them in against a creature deck like a red or green beatdown. Terror is really good because, like I said, Stroll will not be able to regenerate, and sometimes I prefer to play 4 Paralyze instead. Paralyze for 1 black mana, you tap his creature and he cannot untap it unless he pay 4 colorless before the drawing step. So you can get blocker out of the way or paralyze a threat. It's almost a time walk, since if he pick 4 to untap his creature, he will have no mana remaining to cast the card that he's about to draw. So sometimes you will see him hesitate and decide to not untap his creature, but then he draw a land. That's why I say it's almost like a time walk. It's really cheap for 1 black, and since your deck is really fast, sometimes that's all you need. So it happened to me to play a 4 paralyzed main deck, or 2 in the main, 2 in the side. You decide. To continue with our history, I just want to mention that the golden age of the Monoblack deck was, of course, 1996, when player discovered that Necropotence was really strong. Necropotence was a card in the Ice Age released in June 95, so we don't have that card in the old school format. But like for those who don't know, Necropotence transforms your life into card draw. It's one of the strongest card in Magic card ever made. It dominated the year 1996. They call it the Black Summer of 96 or the Necro Summer of 96. Necropotence got banned years later in almost all formats. It's restricted in Vintage, to give you an idea how strong it is. Why I talk about this is because in the age of Necropotence, there were a lot of mono black deck in the top 8 of each, like Pro Tour of this era, and other than Necropotence and Serrated Arrow. Most of the Necropotence deck of those days look almost the same as a typical mono black deck in old school format today in 2024. So like, just to give you this example is Leon Lindback from the Pro Tour New York 96. He went to the semifinal with it. This is why it's gold border. All the deck of the top 8 were made into gold border. So if you want to have a good idea of like mono black deck to do in old school, you just have to look at the list, the Necropotence deck from 1996, 1997. Sometimes you will find some, like the Hacker Potence is more like on the creature side, while what they call at the time the Toronto deck of Paul McCabe, it was more built around drain life to, like, drain life to draw a card with Necropotence, but it's like a control deck. It can be really strong. Otherwise, I believe that one of the most well-known mono black deck in the old school format, we see it here, it was Mike Solasi deck from the Madison Offensive, a tournament that happened in Wisconsin in January 2018. It had around 50 players, 4-strip format. Mike Solasi won every match with this deck. It has only like 1 power, is the Mox Jet, but otherwise it really look like Rudy Edward deck that I presented at the beginning, but like you see, there's no Juzam. It's more like I said, lower mana curve. I believe that this is like it kind of became the stock deck for the old school format. You see there's like 4 Black Knight, 4 Hypnotic Spectre, 4 Order of the Eban, 4 Imtuturak, 4 Rack, 4 Dark Ritual, 3 Royal Assassin, 3 Disrupting Scepter, 2 Greed, 2 Paralyze, 1 Mind Twist. You kind of see like this is one of the most common deck, mono black deck, I mean, that you will encounter in the old school format for Strip Mine. I myself took this exact deck with a little modification. I did not add a Mox Jet at the time, but I took that deck to the 200 Challenge 2019. We see here the deck pick of my deck at the day. I finished it in the top 8. It was 45 player. And this is what I play ever since, like when I want to be competitive in old school, and I have some good score with it. But I say my main problem is with that deck is if you lose your first swamp after playing your first swamp, if your opponent strip mine your swamp or like Stone Rain or Sinkhole it, like you're really screwed because you really need to have 2 black mana on your second turn to play your spell, like your Imtoturak or the Black Knight or the Order of the Ibanen. So if you don't have your second swamp on turn 2, you will really struggle for the rest of the game, and I believe it's the main weakness of that deck. There's so many games I lost just because they destroyed my first or second swamp. So this is why starting in November 2022, I started playing Initiate of the Eban. So this is my deck from the Chaos Con 2022. I finished it in the top 8 also with it. Basically, it's the same deck that I presented, almost the same deck that I'm showing you since the start of that video. But I started playing Initiate of the Ibanen. Initiate of the Ibanen is a creature from Fallen Empire. You probably saw it. It's the creature with an eye on his chest. It's for 1 black mana. It's a 1/1 that can turn your colorless mana, not just your colorless mana, but like every color of mana into black mana. And if you spend like more than 3 into your Initiate of the Ibanen, you will have to sacrifice it at the end of turn. Right? So you change your colorless mana into black mana, and if you put like 4 into it, it will burst at the end of turn. You heat too much, I don't know. So like this card is really important because since we play with 4 Strip Mine and 4 Mishra Factory, we play with Sol Ring. So like let's say first turn you get your first swamp, you get a swamp and then you play an Initiate of the Ibanen. That's mean on your second turn, if you only have like a Mishra Factory or a Strip Mine as your second land, with the Initiate of the Ibanen you'll be able to have your second black mana available. And that make all the difference, and this little guy is really worth it for that. I won so many games just because the Initiate of the Ibanen saved my mana curve. Like my opponent destroyed my swamp, but I had my Initiate of the Ibanen on the battlefield. Like no problem, he turned all my land into black mana. So you want to cast your Sinkhole, Imtoturak, or your Knight on the second turn. Is available to make it done. And also later in the game, when you have, let's say, like an Order of the Ibanen, or you want to cast like a giant, not a giant, but like a big drain life of 4 or 5 on your opponent, but you have like mainly like Mishra Factories and Strip Mine and Sol Ring, Initiate of the Ibanen will turn your colorless mana into black mana without any problem. I want to give you an example here. As you can see in that example, this is a game I did against Patrick Bird that I won. So first turn I played a black mana to cast my Initiate of the Ibanen, and then on my second turn I had another swamp, but it Strip Mined it. So I was stuck with like I probably casted something else, but I mean it meant like later, you see we're kind of late in the game. I only have 1 swamp available and a Sol Ring, but since I had Initiate of the Ibanen, I was able to turn my Sol Ring into 2 black mana every turn. So this is how I was able to get a Hypnotic Spectre, play my Imtoturak. It's really work. I remember winning a game against a control deck just by having my 2 Mishra Factories and an Initiate of the Ibanen. I did not have any problem casting black spell. So it's really efficient. That's why I really like that card. Here's another example of Initiate of the Ibanen being very useful. As you can see on like at the beginning of the game, I was able to cast my Initiate of the Ibanen, but I soon lost all my swamp. So I'm stuck with Strip Mine. That's the only land I have. But since I have the Initiate of the Ibanen, my Strip Mine is like a swamp, and this is how I was able to. I was lucky on that one. I was able to draw Paralyze. I had 2 Paralyze in my starting hand, and then I draw another one. But like even without any swamp, I was still able to cast my spell and like keep him tapped down. He's not able to, as you can see, he's not able to untap. And my Black Knight was able to hit for 2 every turn until I won that game. Initiate of the Eban is also really good if you have some other game plan. Like I already said that with Drain Life, it's really good because it turns all your colorless mana into the black mana that Drain Life need to drain your opponent for 1. It's also good with a Pestilence, a card that I always play in the sideboard. Pestilence costs 4. This is really good against aggro deck that have a lot of creature. Because you're really able with the Pestilence to kill all their creature and inflict damage, and since you will do more damage to them than they can do to you, it won me a lot of game to have the Pestilence. I got 2 in the sideboard. It's always useful. Contrary to what people believe, you won't really keep your Pestilence for a couple of turns. Usually it's only like you cast it, and then the turn after, when you untap, you start to inflicting damage with it. But soon you kill this creature, and then you have to sack your Pestilence, because if there's no creature at the end of turn, you lose your Pestilence. But it really got me a lot of game, and with the Initiate of the Eban, I was able to, basically what you do is like you take all your colorless mana, you change it into black mana in your mana pool, and then you spend it to activate your Pestilence. The other card that is really good with it is the Greed. The Greed is an enchantment from Legend, and was also reprinted in 4th edition. So you pay a black mana to draw a card, and then you lose 2 life. It's like the first the ancestor of Necropotence. This is really good because, like, to pay a black and draw a card, even if you lose 2 life, it really makes the difference. And when you play it with Drain Life, these 2 cards goes together. Another one that is good with is if you have like Mana Rock. So like Initiate of the Eban will be really good to turn your Mana Vault and Basalt Monolith into black mana. And also, if you play with Ashnod Altar that you sacrifice creature to create 2 colorless mana, your Initiate of the Eban will be able to turn them into black mana. There's also some variant that you can do with it. So this is the what we call the Pain Train. It's a deck made by François Derbas Thibodeau. I believe he won a couple of tournaments with it, or at least did top 8. So it's a typical Monoblack deck, but he play 4 Initiate of the Eban, and he also play blue cards. So he played 3 Serendib Efreet, Upsigning Blast. He have his red Elemental Blast and Energy Flux in the sideboard, and also like the Power 9, Time Walk, and Ancestral Recall. But he's able to have no problem with his double black mana casting cost because he's playing the Initiate of Eban. It fixed so much mana problem. This is why it's really good. Another variant of the Mono Black deck that I think is really fun, even if it's less strong. I mean, you will probably not win the tournament, but you will have a lot of fun with these. It's the Mono Black really fast Winnie deck. Here I have an example. This is the deck that I took on the October 2019 monthly. I finished at 2nd with it. So basically, it's like you don't waste your time, as you can see with the. I put my Hymn to Rack in the sideboard and the rack in the sideboard, but like the main board is all about going really fast aggro. So I had, you see, the Initiate of the Eban to make sure I always have my 2nd black on 2nd turn. I have 4 Order of the Eban, 4 Black Knight, 4 Urg Raider. Urg Raider is a 2/3 that must attack every turn, otherwise it deals you 2. I had 4 Paralyzed to tap the creature down, 4 Hypnotic Spectre. You can see I have 4 Vampire Bat. Vampire Bat is for 1 black mana, it's a 0/1 flying, and you can pay 2 black to give him +2. So that's work well with the Initiate of the Eban when you have like Strip Mine and Mishra Factories on the play. And of course I had the 4 Bad Moon that gave all the black card +1/+1, and the Unholy Strained +2/+1. It's an enchant creature, so let's say you put it on the 1st turn, on this 3rd turn on your Urg Raider, your Urg Raider will become a 4/4. So as you can notice that I don't play any Dark Ritual because I want to have a higher number of creature. Of course, after like I took that deck in a couple of monthly tournaments, but soon the other player figured it out and they started to add stuff in their sideboard to block me, so I no longer had any success with it, but it's really fun to play. This is another one that I made top 8 in another monthly tournament. This one I had the Dark Ritual and the Rack, but I had like 4 Urgrader and 4 Bad Moon. A similar deck like this one made second place, I believe, in the Boreal Cup of 2021. That was a big webcam tournament of about 50 players. Another one that I really like to play, that is another variant of this deck, was invented by Guillaume Soucy for the Tundra Wolf Challenge 2023. It's what they call it, the Disco Clay. So you play 4 Niverel Disc main deck. So for 4 you can come into play, tap, you pay, and then when it untap you pay 1, and you can destroy all creature, the enchantment, and the artifact into play. So basically you let them unload their hand with their Mox and Power 9 and all that, and then you play a Niverel Disc, and then you blow up everything. It also plays 4 Clay Statue. It's a 3/1 that can regenerate for 2. So if you have like your Clay Statue and the Niverel Disc, your Clay Statue can survive the Niverel Disc, and then it will hit for 3 every turn. Same with the Dredge Skeleton, except it's a 1/1 for 2 that regenerate for 1 black. This deck is, I think, even like, it's not like really good, but I had some surprising success. I also did a second place in third place, I believe, in the July monthly. It's really fun to play. The people doesn't expect the Niverel Disc. You play 4 main deck. It's really fun. The land destruction is really what make that deck strong. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. I have a YouTube channel. As you can see, if you look into the playlist, you can find the Old School playlist. You will find a lot of stuff there, including webcam tournament that we recorded. We also have a French-speaking podcast called Terrain Basique, which means basic land in French. So Terrain Basique, we cover every format, so it's not just about old school, but sometimes we have some old school episode. I recorded live every big tournament that I did at the Tundra Wolf Challenge at the Chaos Con. We have episode recorded live during these tournaments. It's in French, but if you understand French, you will like it. And also you can invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I often have a webcam game that I upload. And in the future, I plan to do a history of the Magic the Gathering. Like, I already did it in French, but I want to translate it in English and do it. So basically all the good deck from 1993, 94, 95, 96. On my French version, I'm now at 1998 and I continue. So I plan to do the same, but in English. So expect that soon before the snow melt. Otherwise, I wish you a really good week, and thank you for sharing our video.